My university advisor blamed me for getting assaulted at a 3 p.m. study session. When I asked about reporting it, she snapped, "You're supposed to focus on studies, not boys." I stayed silent. That was 4 months ago. Today, she announced her immediate retirement. When did you realize the system was designed to protect the wrong people? My university was obsessed with blaming every victim of a crime, especially a girl being taken advantage of. It started during freshman orientation, when the guys got an hour presentation on respecting boundaries, and the girls got 4 hours on preventing our own assault. The dean of students stood at the podium showing slides about dressing modestly, avoiding parties and buddy systems. She actually said with the straightest face she could muster that 90% of campus attacks involved alcohol, so just don't drink. Then she shared this story about how she almost got attacked once, but followed all the rules and stayed safe. I sat there with my mouth hanging open, and it almost reached the floor when my roommate Rachel leaned over and whispered that her sister went here and was told to never report anything. I didn't believe her until I met with my tour guide Sarah at the campus coffee shop, and I was rambling about the orientation, waving around a chip in my hand angrily. It wasn't until I popped it into my mouth that I realized how quiet she was being, and after bothering her for the answer, I understood why. She had reported one last year and lost her scholarship when her grades tanked during the investigation. She had to move off campus because she couldn't afford dorming anymore. Meanwhile, her friend who got hurt by the same guy stayed quiet, got free therapy and an extension on all assignments. Seeing how Sarah's lips trembled and the way she flinched when someone in the coffee shop got too loud made me realize I had to make preventing this my responsibility. So I spent the next 2 semesters being the perfect student. I never drank, texted my friends my location every 30 minutes, and attended every self-defense class they offered. I even read all those stupid safety emails about walking in well-lit areas. None of it mattered when a study group member assaulted me in the library at 3 in the afternoon. When I went to my advisor to ask about reporting, she tilted her head and furrowed her eyebrows, and had the audacity to ask, "But why were you alone with him? Where was your buddy?" When I tried to explain that he was showing me the slides on his laptop, she snapped and said, "You're supposed to focus on studies, not boys." Rachel found me crying in our dorm room that night, and when I told her what happened, her expression tightened, worry and disbelief flickering across her face. She proceeded to tell me that the same guy had done the same thing to her last semester. She then pulled up this hidden social media group on her phone with 47 members, all who were hurt by multiple athletes and fraternity brothers. The pinned post said not to report anything, just document everything and graduate first. I felt my chest tighten at that, and the next couple weeks were not pretty. I stopped going to any class in his building, wore hoodies even when it was 90 degrees, jumped whenever a male student walked too close. I never thought I would understand the way Sarah felt. The panic attacks got so bad I couldn't breathe sometimes, but I couldn't use campus counseling because they'd have to report it. Though everything changed when I found out the guy who hurt me was going to be an RA in the freshman dorm next year. I stayed up all night thinking about some 18-year-old girl trusting him because he had a position of authority. I knew I couldn't let that happen, so I typed up letters warning people about which study groups to avoid and which boys had been accused. Once done, I slipped them under all the girls' dorm rooms at 3 a.m. I guess someone had seen me because suddenly girls started finding me in bathroom stalls and empty classrooms to share their stories. After the 5th girl, I brought a dozen composition notebooks and documented everything with dates and details. In total, there were 23 assaults, 5 perpetrators, and 0 reports. That's when I got bolder. I left copies of the documentation in faculty mailboxes and slipped evidence under the doors of board member offices during their meetings. The call came on a Tuesday morning. I was to report to the dean of students immediately. I walked into a room full of university lawyers who immediately accused me of harassment and defamation. The one in the fanciest black suit gripped one of my notebooks in his hand and said, "We found it in your room during a search. You're ruining innocent young men's futures with baseless accusations." I scoffed. What about the reputations they destroyed? The girls who can't eat, can't sleep, that's enough. The dean leaned forward. "You've created a hostile environment on this campus. We have 5 families threatening lawsuits." I reminded her that she helped 0 victims and I was just protecting them. Protection? The dean's voice rose. "You've violated privacy policies, created panic, and damaged this institution's reputation." Before I could say anything, the lawyer in the fancy suit slid a stack of papers across the table. They were giving me 2 choices: delete everything and sign an NDA, or face a lawsuit and expulsion. The dean looked me in the eye and said no one would believe me. I stared at those papers for what felt like hours, but was probably 30 seconds. My hands were shaking, but I pushed the stack back across the table. The lawyers all exchanged these panicked looks and started making hushed phone calls. I asked why they were so desperate to silence me if these were just baseless accusations. The dean just kept repeating that she was protecting the university's reputation. I left without signing anything. That night my phone rang at 11. It was my mom and she was crying. The dean had called my parents claiming I was facing serious disciplinary action and potential legal consequences. My dad got on the phone next and his voice was tight. His biggest clients had called him expressing concerns about continuing their business relationship. They'd heard rumors about his family. I tried to explain what was happening, but he just kept asking what I'd done. The next morning I noticed something weird. All 5 guys I'd documented were suddenly getting emails about independent study credits and accelerated summer courses. The university was fast-tracking them toward early graduation. They'd be done with their degrees within months. I started digging into why these specific students were getting special treatment. That's when I found it. One of the guys shared a last name with the university's largest donor, the Whitmore family. Their name was on the business school, the new athletic center, and half the benches on campus. I spent hours in the library researching their business holdings. They owned or had partnerships with companies all over town, companies that employed parents of my classmates. My mom called me crying again 2 days later. The country club where she worked part-time had suddenly reduced her hours. Budget concerns, they said. My dad lost 2 major contracts that same week. Both clients mentioned hearing troubling things about our family's reputation. The pieces were starting to come together. I went to see my academic advisor about my spring schedule. She frowned at her computer screen and told me there were issues with my transcript. I'd need additional coursework that would delay my graduation by at least a year. Meanwhile, I watched those 5 guys breeze through their accelerated requirements. No one questioned them. An anonymous letter showed up at my parents' house. It had details about our financial struggles, my mom's medical bills from last year, even my little brother's learning disability. The message was clear. This would all become public if I kept going. My dad called me screaming. He wanted me to drop whatever I was doing and apologize. Christina found me in the library bathroom having a panic attack. She sat on the floor with me and pulled out her phone. She'd been documenting everything, not just what happened to her, but the retaliation. She'd connected with alumni who went through the same thing. The economic pressure campaigns weren't new. The Whitmore family wasn't done. Their business partners started spreading rumors about my family at the country club, at my dad's office, everywhere. Then intermediaries started approaching my parents. They could make it all go away. All I had to do was transfer schools and sign some papers. I kept digging. The other perpetrators' families had business connections too. This wasn't just about one donor family. It was a whole network. They'd been using economic pressure to silence victims for years. I found records going back a decade. The Whitmore son had a history. Similar incidents in high school, all covered up. His family would swoop in with lawyers and money. Victims' families would suddenly have financial problems or amazing opportunities, depending on their cooperation. The pattern was always the same. The university made their desperation obvious. They offered my family full tuition coverage and job opportunities for my parents. All we had to do was stay quiet and I'd transfer somewhere nice. My parents were tempted. The financial pressure was crushing them. Then the Whitmore family overreached. They threatened to completely destroy my dad's business and blacklist him from working anywhere in the region. That finally made my parents understand. This wasn't about me causing trouble. This was about powerful people protecting criminals. Christina and I started working together. We documented every instance of economic retaliation. We reached out to other affected families. The Whitmore family had been doing this for years, across multiple institutions. Their money protected their son wherever he went. I realized why they were so desperate to graduate him quickly. They were planning to move him somewhere out of reach, some cushy job in the family business or a graduate program in another state. We had limited time before he disappeared. I started thinking about the Whitmore family's business network differently. They used it like a weapon, but maybe it could work against them too. Christina helped me make a list of their competitors, companies that would benefit if the Whitmores lost just influence. We spent hours in her dorm room, mapping out connections on a whiteboard she'd bought with her last $20. Red lines for direct competitors, blue for potential allies, green for neutral parties who might be swayed. The markers squeaked against the board as we drew connection after connection, creating a web that looked almost beautiful if you didn't know what it represented. My first call was to Gregory Chen, who ran a competing development firm. My hands shook as I dialed. The phone felt slippery in my sweaty palm. I had to wipe it on my jeans twice before I could hold it steady. I told him I had information about the Whitmore family's liability issues. He agreed to meet me at a diner outside town. The place smelled like burnt coffee and old grease, but it was neutral territory. Red vinyl booths cracked with age, fluorescent lights that buzzed like angry wasps. I showed him our documentation, how they covered up criminal behavior, how any business partner could face reputation damage. His expression shifted from skepticism to concern as he flipped through pages, his coffee growing cold as he read. Gregory listened carefully. He asked pointed questions about dates, about witnesses, about paper trails. He took photos of some documents with his phone, angling them under the harsh diner light to avoid glare. He said he'd think about it. 2 days later, 3 more competitors called me. Word was spreading in the business community like wildfire through dry grass. Each conversation got easier. I learned to present the information calmly, professionally. Let the facts speak for themselves. I developed a rhythm. Introduction, context, evidence, implications. No emotion, just truth laid bare. The dean called me in again. This time she was alone. No lawyers. Her office felt smaller without the intimidating presence of legal counsel. The leather chairs seemed less imposing. The mahogany desk less like a barrier. She looked tired and stressed. Dark circles under her eyes, coffee stains on her usually pristine blazer. Her hands trembled slightly as she reached for her water glass. She told me I was making a huge mistake. The Whitmore family had supported this university for decades, built the business school, funded scholarships, created endowments. Their name was on 3 buildings and 17 memorial benches. I told her they'd also protected a predator for decades. 23 victims that we knew of, probably more who never spoke up. The silence in her office after I said that was deafening. My dad's business started getting new inquiries, small jobs at first, kitchen renovations for a restaurant owner who'd lost a bid to Whitmore Construction, a bathroom remodel for a lawyer who'd been pushed out of a case, companies that competed with Whitmore partners. Each call made him stand a little taller, smile a little wider. My mom got a call about a bookkeeping position at a firm downtown. Better hours, better pay, actual benefits. The woman who interviewed her mentioned she'd heard about our family's integrity. The tide was starting to turn, slowly but unmistakably. The Whitmore son, Donald, confronted me outside the library. It was raining, that cold October drizzle that soaked through everything, the kind of rain that made your bones ache. Students hurried past with umbrellas turned inside out by the wind. He grabbed my arm hard enough to leave marks, his expensive cologne mixing with the smell of wet concrete. His face was red, whether from anger or the cold I couldn't tell. He told me I was ruining his life. His fingers left bruises I'd photographed later in the harsh bathroom light. I pulled away and told him he ruined his own life and mine and 22 others. He said his family would destroy me. I told him they were already trying, but I wasn't alone anymore. He stalked away, his designer shoes splashing through puddles. Christina discovered something huge while researching in the library archives. The university board was having emergency meetings, closed-door sessions about financial liability. The meeting schedule showed 3 unplanned gatherings in 1 week. Some board members owned businesses too. They were worried about being associated with a cover-up. She found draft minutes from recent meetings that mentioned reputation risk assessments, insurance concerns, potential lawsuits, the language of self-preservation, not justice, but we'd take what we could get. She photocopied everything, the machine's light flashing like lightning in the quiet archive room. More families started coming forward, not just from our university. The Whitmore son had incidents at his prep school. 2 girls from his senior class reached out through Facebook. His cousin had issues at another college. 3 states away, similar patterns. The family had been paying people off for years, creating a trail of NDAs and suspicious scholarship funds. Each story made their business partners more nervous. I started keeping a second notebook, just for the timeline. Red ink for confirmed incidents, blue for suspected ones. The pattern was undeniable, a constellation of harm across decades. I got an email from the interim provost at 11:47 p.m. They were reviewing the accelerated graduation programs. All special arrangements were suspended pending evaluation. The language was carefully neutral, but the implications were clear. Donald Whitmore wouldn't be graduating early after all. Neither would Marcus Chen or James Morrison or Andrew Blake or Thomas Fitzgerald. They'd have to earn their degrees like everyone else. No more special treatment, no more fast tracks paved with family money. My advisor called me in the next morning. Her office smelled like lavender and old books, a sharp contrast to the dean's sterile face. Suddenly my transcript issues were resolved. No additional coursework needed. The holds on my account mysteriously lifted. She wouldn't look me in the eye when I asked what changed. Her hands fidgeted with a paperweight shaped like an owl, turning it over and over. I knew the administration was starting to crack. The pressure was working both ways now. She mumbled something about administrative errors being corrected. The Whitmore family tried one more power play. They announced they were reconsidering their donation for the new science building, $20 million. The announcement came through official channels, carefully worded to seem reasonable. The university president sent a campus-wide email about budget challenges, thinly veiled threats about program cuts and staff reductions. But faculty started asking questions about why major donors were pulling support. The answers led them places the administration didn't want them to go. Professor meetings became interrogations. The faculty senate demanded transparency. Michelle's dad worked at the local newspaper, not as a reporter, just in advertising sales. But he mentioned during dinner that the newsroom was hearing rumors, business leaders distancing themselves from the Whitmores, questions about why the family was so desperate to silence a college student. Reporters started sniffing around campus, asking students careful questions outside the library. Press vans appeared in visitor parking. The story was spreading beyond campus, beyond our control, beyond anyone's ability to contain. I met with Albert Morrison next. He owned several restaurants in town and had lost a bid to the Whitmores last year under suspicious circumstances. We met at his flagship location after closing. The empty restaurant felt cavernous, our voices echoing off polished floors. He poured us both coffee from a pot that probably cost more than my textbooks. Italian import, he mentioned casually. I showed him how they used their influence, the pattern of threats and economic pressure, how they'd undercut his bids with inside information. He started making calls to other business owners right there in front of me. His voice carried authority. Years of business relationships activated with a few words. The network that protected them was becoming the network that exposed them. Christina and I organized the victims who were willing to speak, not publicly, not yet, but to their parents, to family friends who owned businesses, to anyone with influence. We met in my dorm room because it was bigger than Christina's. 23 stories spreading through the community like ripples in a pond, each one a crack in the Whitmore Foundation. We provided talking points, evidence packets, support. Some cried as they prepared to break years of silence. Others seemed relieved, like setting down a weight they'd carried too long. The dean announced her retirement 3 weeks later, effective immediately. She cited personal reasons, health concerns, time with family. The campus newspaper ran the story next to an article about administrative transparency. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Her photo showed a woman who'd aged years and weeks. The interim dean was Dr. Ruth Martinez, who had a daughter in college. She called me in and actually listened. She took notes in a leather journal, asked follow-up questions that showed she understood. She said she couldn't undo the past, but she could change the future. Her office felt different already, warmer somehow, like windows had been opened after years of stale air. Donald's early graduation got officially denied. The registrar sent a formal letter citing incomplete requirements and pending disciplinary matters. He threw a tantrum in the registrar's office. Security had to escort him out. Someone filmed it on their phone. Donald screaming about his rights, throwing papers, knocking over a potted plant. The video circulated through group chats before the administration could suppress it. His family's lawyers sent threatening letters to the university, cease and desist orders, defamation claims, demands for immediate action. The board didn't budge. They were more afraid of liability than losing donations. The legal department had done the math. My family started healing. My dad apologized for not believing me initially. We talked over over dinner at our kitchen table, the one he'd built himself when they first got married. His hands traced the wood grain as he spoke, unable to meet my eyes at first. My mom joined a support group for parents. She came back from meetings with red eyes but stronger shoulders. She started sleeping through the night again. My little brother made me a card that said, "My sister is brave." Construction paper and glitter glue, crooked letters that meant everything. I cried for an hour, clutching that card like a lifeline. The other perpetrators started facing consequences. Marcus Chen lost his RA position after residents complained they didn't feel safe. They moved him out of the dorms in the middle of the night, cardboard boxes and garbage bags in the hallway. James Morrison got removed from student government. The election commission cited conduct violations, finally acting on complaints they'd ignored for years. Andrew Blake's internship offer got rescinded when the company learned about the allegations. The HR director called him personally to deliver the news. Thomas Fitzgerald's fraternity suspended him pending investigation. His brothers voted unanimously. The protection network was crumbling from within. Charlotte Williams reached out to me through a mutual friend. She was a Whitmore family friend who'd stayed quiet about Donald hurting her in high school. We met at a coffee shop downtown, chose a corner table away from windows. She had documents, police reports that were never filed, stamped draft in red ink, hospital records from a suspicious fall downstairs, x-rays showing defensive wounds, payoffs to her family disguised as scholarship funds, years of evidence in a manila folder that shook in her hands. She'd been carrying it for 3 years, waiting for someone to believe her. The business community turned completely. The Whitmores lost 3 major contracts in 1 week. The city council voted to review their development permits. Previous approvals suddenly needed additional environmental assessments. Their partners started requiring morality clauses. Background checks became standard. Their reputation was toxic. Companies that had courted them now wouldn't return calls. Protecting Donald had cost them more than exposing him would have. The calculation they'd made for decades finally came due. Dr. Martinez implemented new policies within her first month. Real ones with teeth. Mandatory reporter training that actually focused on helping victims, not just legal compliance and liability protection. Support services that didn't require official reports. Anonymous reporting systems that actually protected anonymity. Safe spaces for students to process trauma. She met with our group monthly to hear feedback. Change was actually happening. Visible in updated websites and revised handbooks. Donald tried to transfer to another university. He applied to 6 schools, all rejections. His transcript now included disciplinary notes. Other schools asked questions, wanted explanations. His family's money couldn't erase digital records. Background checks revealed the pattern. He was stuck facing consequences for the first time in his life. His parents hired image consultants, crisis management firms. It didn't help. The internet remembered everything. Christina got her scholarship reinstated. Full retroactive support plus damages for emotional distress. The university admitted they'd mishandled her case. The letter came on official letterhead, signed by 3 administrators. She cried in my dorm room. Happy tears this time. The kind that came with relief. She could afford to finish her degree. She could stop working 3 jobs. She could sleep without worry. She could dream again. The Whitmore family made one last desperate offer. $50,000 directly to me. Cash. No strings except silence. The envelope was thick. Delivered by a man in an expensive suit who wouldn't give his name. I took a photo of the check and sent it to every business owner I'd been talking to. Proof of how they operated. The final nail in their reputation's coffin. The offer itself became evidence of guilt. More competitors emerged from the shadows. Blake Enterprises started bidding against Whitmore projects. Morrison Development expanded into their territory. 10 industries poached their best employees with better salaries and actual ethics policies. The family's business empire was under siege from all sides. Their own tactics turned against them. Stock prices dropped. Board members resigned. The empire built on silence crumbled loudly. Michelle's support group grew to over 100 members. Not all were victims. Some were friends, sisters, roommates who wanted to help. They met in the student center every Thursday at 7 p.m. Brought snacks, homemade cookies, fruit plates, whatever they could afford. Shared resources, created safety networks, buddy systems that actually worked. The culture was shifting. Slowly, painfully, but definitely shifting. You could feel it in how people walked across campus at night. The university board voted to rename the Whitmore Business School. They cited evolving institutional values. The family threatened to pull all funding. Every scholarship, every endowment, every named chair. The board voted to proceed anyway. They'd found other donors, ethical ones, alumni who'd been waiting for the Whitmore influence to fade. The vote was 15-2. The new name would honor a female entrepreneur who'd built her business on integrity. I started getting thank you messages, emails, and handwritten notes from girls who felt safer speaking up, from parents who understood what to watch for, from alumni who'd carried silence for years. Each message reminded me why I'd fought. I kept them in a box under my bed, read them on bad days when the weight of it all felt crushing. Some were anonymous, others included names and stories. All of them mattered. Donald's graduation got delayed indefinitely. He needed to complete a disciplinary process, character reviews, behavioral assessments, mandatory counseling with actual consequences for non-compliance. The same bureaucracy that protected him now trapped him. His family couldn't fast-track him anymore. He had to sit in the same waiting rooms as everyone else, fill out the same forms, face the same committees that had rubber-stamped his privileges before. My grades improved once I wasn't terrified all the time. I made Dean's List. My name appeared in the campus newspaper, an achievement that felt surreal. My professors noticed I participated more, raised my hand in class, contributed to discussions without apologizing first. I wasn't shrinking into hoodies anymore. I was taking up space, using my voice, wearing colors again, the purple sweater my mom bought me, the red scarf from my grandmother. The investigations expanded beyond our campus. Other universities started looking at their handling of similar cases. The Whitmore pattern appeared everywhere. Donations followed by covert assaults, intimidation disguised as philanthropy. The scope was staggering. Decades of protection rackets. A whole system built on silence. Federal investigators got involved. Subpoenas arrived at multiple campuses. The story had grown beyond any single institution. Joyce Hamilton called me on a Tuesday afternoon. She was a retired judge who'd been pressured to dismiss a case against Donald in high school. She had records, names of others who'd been silenced, judges who'd been influenced, prosecutors who'd been pressured. The network was deeper than we'd imagined. She wanted to help dismantle it. Her voice carried the weight of years of regret. She'd kept copies of everything, waiting for the right moment. Local businesses started advertising their ethics policies. "We don't partner with predator protectors" became an actual marketing strategy. Signs in windows next to help wanted postings, statements on websites, social media campaigns. The Whitmores became bad for business. Their influence evaporated as quickly as it had once grown. Former partners distanced themselves publicly. Press releases used words like reevaluating and new directions. Christina and I presented our documentation to the new administration, not for punishment, but for prevention. We created a presentation with 47 slides. How to recognize economic retaliation. How to support victims without requiring formal reports. How to break protection patterns before they started. They actually took notes, asked for copies, promised implementation. Dr. Martinez scheduled follow-up meetings, created a task force. Change was becoming institutional. The 5 perpetrators faced academic reviews, real ones with actual standards. Their special privileges vanished overnight. Early graduation denied. Special accommodations revoked. They had to complete coursework like everyone else, face disciplinary boards, deal with consequences. The playing field finally leveled. Some dropped out rather than face the process. Others hired lawyers who found themselves outmatched by a system that suddenly cared about justice. My family recovered financially. My dad's business thrived with new clients who respected integrity. He hired 2 more workers, bought better equipment, a new truck with his company name painted on the side. My mom's new job came with benefits and respect, health insurance that actually covered therapy, dental, vision, a retirement plan. We were stronger for having survived the pressure. We understood systems now, how they worked, how to fight them, how to win. Donald got expelled 2 weeks before graduation. The disciplinary board found him responsible for multiple violations. The vote was unanimous. 7 faculty members, 3 staff, 2 students. His family's lawyers couldn't overturn it. Academic decisions based on evidence stood firm. He lost everything he'd felt entitled to. His name removed from honor rolls. His future derailed. His graduation announcements became waste paper. The other families started facing their own reckonings. The Morrison Sons internship network dried up. Companies Googled names now. The Blake family lost social standing. Country club memberships quietly revoked. Charity boards requested resignations. The Chen family faced questions about what else they'd covered up. Their other children faced scrutiny. Protecting predators became a liability. The social cost finally outweighed the benefits. I kept my notebooks. Evidence of how systems protected the wrong people, but also evidence of how communities could fight back. How economic pressure worked both ways. How courage was contagious when people stood together. I thought about writing a book someday. A guide for other victims. A roadmap through institutional betrayal. Publishers had already reached out, sensing a story that needed telling. The Whitmore name came off buildings one by one. The board voted to return donations tied to covering up crimes. Millions of dollars. They'd rather be poor than complicit. Integrity became more valuable than infrastructure. New donors stepped forward. Clean money, ethical support, alumni who'd waited decades to give. The dedication ceremonies were quiet affairs. No protests needed. Justice had its own momentum. Dr. Martinez asked me to help train new orientation leaders, to tell them the real safety information, not about hemlines and buddy systems, about power structures and reporting options, about communities that would support them. I said yes, created a whole curriculum, made it mandatory. Every incoming student would hear the truth. The cycle of silence was breaking. Michelle started a formal organization, Resources for Economic Retaliation Victims, RERV. It helped families facing pressure for speaking up, connected them with ethical employers, documented patterns, made the invisible visible. The Whisper Network became an institution. They got office space in the student center, official recognition, funding, a website, business cards, everything that made it real and lasting. Christina graduated with honors. She walked across that stage like she owned it. No shame, no shrinking. Her family drove in from 3 states away, filled a whole row. The university president apologized publicly for how her case was handled. She accepted graciously. Then she started law school, full scholarship to a better school. She wanted to fight systems too. Her acceptance letter mentioned her advocacy work. They wanted students who'd already changed the world. The investigations found more. Donald had assaulted someone at a summer program, another at an internship. Each time his family paid for silence. But digital records existed. Paper trails, bank transfers. The full pattern emerged unavoidably. Prosecutors started building cases, real ones this time, with teeth and timeline and evidence that couldn't be buried under money. My story spread through alumni networks. Older graduates shared their own experiences. The protection racket went back 40 years. Generations of victims silenced by economic pressure, but also generations ready to speak now, ready to support each other, ready to dismantle the systems that had protected predators for decades. The Whitmore empire fell, but from its ashes, something better grew. A community that protected the right people. A university that valued safety over donations. A future where victims were believed. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't complete, but it was a beginning. And beginnings, I'd learned, could change everything. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls. My phone kept buzzing as I tried to clear the notifications. Most were from numbers I didn't recognize. The first voicemail made my blood run cold. Donald had been arrested at 3 a.m. trying to break into Charlotte Williams' apartment. Her roommate called 911 when they heard someone jimmying the lock. The police found him hammered and belligerent in the hallway. He had printed copies of her medical records in his backpack. I called Charlotte immediately. She was okay but shaken. The police took her statement this time, actually wrote it down, asked follow-up questions, took photos of the attempted entry. Donald spent the night in jail. His family's lawyers got him out on bail by noon, but the damage was done. Attempted breaking and entering, possession of stolen medical documents, witness intimidation, real charges that would stick. Christina texted me screenshots from the university portal. All 5 perpetrators now had holds on their accounts. Academic suspension pending criminal investigations. They couldn't register for classes, couldn't access transcripts, couldn't graduate even if they wanted to. The system that had protected them for so long was finally working against them. My dad called during lunch. His voice sounded different, lighter. 3 more companies had reached out about contracts, big ones, the kind that would set his business up for years. Word had spread that he'd stood up to the Whitmores. That meant something in the business community. Integrity was becoming profitable. Michelle organized an emergency meeting that night. The room was packed, standing room only. Girls I'd never seen before showed up. Some brought their boyfriends who wanted to be allies. We talked about what came next, how to make sure the changes stuck, how to support each other through the investigations. Someone suggested making a documentary. Another wanted to start a nonprofit. The energy was electric. Dr. Martinez announced a full audit of donor influence on campus decisions, going back 20 years. Every suspicious grade change, every expedited graduation, every drop investigation. She hired an external firm to ensure independence. The board approved it unanimously. Even the 2 members who'd initially supported the Whitmores voted yes. The tide had turned completely. I got a call from Margaret Chen, Marcus's mother. She was crying, apologizing. She'd known about her son's behavior since high school, had paid off 2 girls herself, justified it as protecting his future. Now she saw what she'd enabled. She wanted to make amends, had the contact information for both victims, wanted to pay for their therapy. Real help this time, not hush money. The Whitmore family business imploded faster than anyone expected. Key employees quit without notice, took their clients with them, started their own firms. The mass exodus happened over a single weekend. By Monday, Whitmore Industries had lost 60% of their workforce. The ones who stayed were the ones who couldn't leave, the desperate or the complicit. Donald violated his bail conditions within a week, contacted 3 victims through fake social media accounts, sent threatening messages, posted their personal information online. Each violation added charges. His lawyers dropped him as a client, said he was uncontrollable. His parents had to find new representation. The 5th firm they tried. I started getting speaking requests. Other universities wanted to hear our story, how we'd broken the cycle. I said yes to a few. Traveled to campuses within driving distance, told rooms full of students that they weren't alone, that systems could change, that their voices mattered. After each talk, girls would approach me privately, share their own stories, ask for advice. I gave them my email, stayed in touch. The criminal trials started 3 months later. I had to testify. So did 12 other girls. The courthouse was packed every day. Media coverage was intense but focused on the system, not salacious details. The prosecutor was thorough, had done her homework. Years of evidence presented methodically. The jury took 2 days to deliberate. Guilty on all counts. Donald got 7 years, the others got 3 to 5. My mom framed the newspaper clipping. Local student activists dismantled decades-old protection network. It hung in our kitchen next to my brother's honor roll certificate. She'd tell anyone who'd listen about her brave daughter. The pride in her voice made up for all those nights she'd cried from stress. The university implemented every recommendation from our task force. Mandatory reporting that actually protected victims. Support services that didn't require official complaints. Regular audits of donor influence. Anonymous tip lines that were truly anonymous. It became a model for other schools. Administrators visited to learn our protocols. Christina passed the bar exam on her first try. Set up a practice focused on campus assault cases. Took clients on sliding scale fees. Won her first case within 6 months. The victory set precedent for economic retaliation claims. She kept a photo from our first meeting on her desk. 2 scared girls who decided to fight back. Michelle's organization got federal grant money, enough to hire full-time staff, open satellite offices at other schools, create a national database of retaliation tactics. They published annual reports, tracked patterns, made it impossible to ignore. The Whisper Network became a roar. The Whitmore family left town, sold their mansion at a loss, moved to another state where their name meant nothing, tried to start over, but the internet remembered. Every new community Googled them. Every potential partner researched them. Their reputation followed like a shadow. Money couldn't buy them a fresh start. I graduated on time, walked across that stage in front of hundreds. My family cheered embarrassingly loud. My dad whistled. My mom cried. My brother held a sign that said, "That's my sister." Dr. Martinez handed me my diploma personally, whispered thank you, said I'd change the university forever. I believed her. The other perpetrators faced their own consequences. Marcus never got another RA position, worked minimum wage jobs, lost his graduate school acceptances. James got dishonorably discharged from ROTC, lost his military career before it started. Andrew's family disowned him, cut off financial support, made him get loans like everyone else. Thomas moved back home, became a cautionary tale in his hometown. New students started arriving with different expectations. They'd heard about what happened, knew the university took assault seriously now, reported incidents immediately, didn't accept victim blaming. The culture shift was real. Orientation leaders taught actual safety, not victim prevention, bystander intervention, consent education that meant something. My story became required reading in sociology classes. Professors used it to teach about institutional power, about grassroots change, about courage being contagious. Students wrote papers analyzing our tactics, how we'd turned economic pressure around, how we'd used their own networks against them. Academic validation of street smart strategy. The documentary happened. A student film major took it on as her thesis project, interviewed 23 of us, used documents we'd collected, created a timeline of systemic failure and community response. It won awards, screened at festivals, made people uncomfortable in the right ways, started conversations that needed starting. Other Whitmore victims kept coming forward from different states, different decades. The full scope was staggering. 43 known victims over 25 years, all silenced the same way. Economic threats, family pressure, institutional protection, but now they had support, legal resources, a community that believed them, justice delayed but not denied. I got a job offer before graduation, a nonprofit focused on campus safety. They wanted someone who understood systems from the inside, who'd fought and won. The salary wasn't amazing, but the work mattered. I accepted immediately. My parents were proud. My dad said I was doing what he'd done, building something, just with justice instead of wood. The ripple effects continued. Other universities audited their donor relationships, found similar patterns, fired complicit administrators, changed policies. The Whitmore case became a cautionary tale. Business schools taught it as an ethics failure. Law schools used it for victim advocacy training. We'd created a template for fighting back. Charlotte Williams became an advocate too, used her high school experience to push for earlier intervention, spoke at prep schools about recognizing predatory behavior, about adults who enabled it. Her parents supported her completely, apologized for taking the first settlement, said they'd been afraid. Now they were angry, the right kind of angry. My last week on campus felt surreal. The buildings looked the same, but everything had changed. The Whitmore name was gone, replaced with Dr. Ruth Martinez Leadership Center. The dedication ceremony was beautiful. Survivors spoke, allies pledged support. The new name represented values, not just money. Progress carved in stone. Donald tried to appeal his conviction, failed. Tried to get early release, denied. His prison job paid 14 cents an hour. He worked in the laundry. No special treatment. No connections to leverage. Just consequences playing out day by day. His parents visited monthly. Looked older each time. The cost of protecting a predator measured in gray hair and sleepless nights. I kept in touch with everyone. We had a group chat that never stopped buzzing. Celebrations and setbacks, new jobs and new challenges, weddings and graduations, normal life things that felt extraordinary because we'd almost lost them. We'd survived together. That bond didn't break with distance. The final Whitmore business collapsed 2 years later. Bankruptcy proceedings revealed decades of financial manipulation. Fraud charges got added to the pile. The empire built on silence crumbled into legal documents, asset liquidation, pension losses. Employees who'd stayed complicit lost everything. Loyalty to corruption paid nothing in the end. My little brother started college, different school but same vigilance. He knew what to watch for, how systems protected wrong people, how to fight back if needed. He joined orientation staff, taught other young men about real respect, about accountability, about courage meaning more than silence. I was ridiculously proud. Christina won a landmark case, set precedent for institutional liability in protection schemes. Universities couldn't claim ignorance anymore, couldn't hide behind donor influence. The settlement funded support services at 12 schools. Real help or real victims. Her name appeared in law journals. The scared girl from the coffee shop was changing national policy. Michelle's organization went international. Similar protection networks existed everywhere. Different countries, same tactics. Economic pressure transcended borders, but so did resistance. The database grew. Patterns emerged, strategies shared. A global network fighting local corruption. The whisper network shouting across oceans. Dr. Martinez got recruited by the Department of Education. They wanted her expertise in institutional reform. She took the job, implemented our protocols nationally, made victim protection standard, not exceptional, changed requirements for federal funding. Schools had to prove they protected students, not donors. The work we'd started reached places we'd never imagined. I was cleaning out my dorm room when I found the first notebook, the one where I documented everything. Water stained from tears, ink smudged from shaking hands, evidence of the worst time becoming proof of the best outcome. I kept it. A reminder that systems designed to protect wrong people could be redesigned. That courage was just fear that kept walking. That 23 voices were louder than centuries of silence. The last email I got before leaving campus was from a freshman. She'd heard my story at orientation, wanted to thank me, said she felt safe reporting her high school assault, got support immediately. No victim blaming, no economic threats, just help and justice. She was healing, planning to study social work, wanted to help others like we'd helped her. I packed my car in the same parking lot where Donald had grabbed me. The space looked different in daylight, just asphalt and painted lines, no shadows, no fear. Students walked by laughing, carefree in the way we'd fought to preserve. I sat there for a minute, engine running, thought about how it started, how it almost broke us, how we'd won anyway. The drive home felt like victory. Every mile between me and that place was distance I'd earned, but I'd be back for alumni events, board meetings, making sure the changes stuck, watching new students walk safely. The university wasn't perfect, no place was, but it was better. We'd made it better, and that work would never really end. My mom had dinner waiting, nothing fancy, spaghetti and salad, my brother's terrible garlic bread. My dad opened sparkling cider. We toasted to surviving, to fighting, to winning, to all the girls who'd come after us, who'd walk those paths without fear, who'd report without retaliation, who'd get justice without economic destruction. We'd changed the system, protected the right people finally, and that was worth every threatening phone call, every sleepless night, every moment of terror. We'd won, they lost, the system worked for us now.